Lieutenant Zhou Chen rubbed her eyes. The blue glow of monitoring stations, the only illumination in Proxima deep space listening post-night shift. 6 months of listening to cosmic background radiation had dulled her expectations of anything interesting happening on her watch. She sipped cold coffee, grimacing at the bitterness. The signal came without warning. Her console erupted with pulsing alerts, alien harmonics flooding through the speakers in patterns too deliberate to be natural phenomena. Chen's hands trembled as she initiated authentication protocols, her mind racing. First contact had occurred 18 months ago, cautious diplomatic exchanges with 3 non-hostile species. But this was different. "Computer, translate incoming signal," she ordered, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Translation processing. Confidence level 67%. Classification. Distress CAL." The message crystallized on her screen. Fragmentary but unmistakable. A merchant vessel from the Andari Confederation was under attack by Krizak raiders at the edge of the Orion Arm. The word Krizak wasn't in Earth's limited xenobiology database. "This is Lieutenant Chen at Proxima Station," she transmitted, following first response protocols. "We've received your distress call. Please confirm nature of emergency." The response came in broken universal standard. The trade language Earth had only begun learning. Andari diplomatic vessel, under ATTCK. Passengers from 12 species, Kirayelzak, taking survivors. Please help. The transmission abruptly terminated. Chen's fingers flew across her console, simultaneously alerting Earth's United Defense Force and requesting clarification from their Andari contacts. Within minutes, her quiet listening post had become the center of a planetary crisis. 4 hours later, the Emergency Council meeting at UDF headquarters in Geneva had devolved into chaos. Admiral Patel pounded his fist on the polished table as representatives from 3 alien embassies spoke over each other. "You must understand," the Tesseri ambassador hissed, her translucent skin flushing crimson with agitation. "Humans are dangerously unpredictable. Your species lacks the evolutionary maturity for interspecies conflict. The Krizak are apex predators," added the Mazarian representative, its gelatinous form pulsing with distress patterns. "They don't merely kill, they harvest. Your intervention would only provide them with new biological samples." Commander Elena Reyes sat silently, studying tactical projections of the distress coordinates. At 42, she'd spent her career preparing for conflicts that never materialized. Until now, her grandfather's weathered face came to mind. Captain Miguel Reyes, who died when his fishing vessel ignored storm warnings to answer a distress call from a sinking yacht. "Since when," she finally said, her voice cutting through the debate, "did humanity start calculating the cost of answering a cry for help?" The room fell silent. "The Andari vessel is carrying diplomatic representatives to a galactic summit," she continued, standing to address the council. "If we don't respond, we send a message to the entire interstellar community. Earth doesn't protect its allies. Your only combat-ready vessel is woefully inadequate," the Tesseri ambassador countered. "The UDS Vigilant was designed for patrol duties, not engaging Krizak harvesters." "Maybe so," Reyes acknowledged. "But we've never needed superior firepower to do what's right." As the council erupted again, Reyes caught Admiral Patel's eye. A subtle nod passed between them. While the diplomats debated, technicians were already preparing the Vigilant for emergency deployment. The ship's AI was calculating jump coordinates while engineer Marcus Wong recalibrated experimental shield harmonics in the vessel's heart. In the officers' quarters, combat specialist Danny Jackson ran tactical simulations against theoretical Krizak attack patterns. Dr. Nadia Ibrahim reviewed the painfully inadequate xenobiology files on both Andari and Krizak physiology, knowing they would be insufficient for combat trauma care. When the council finally voted, 6-5 in favor of intervention. Commander Rise was already walking toward the launch bay. Her expression was grim but determined as she addressed the hastily assembled crew of the Vigilant. "I won't lie to you," she said, her voice echoing through the cavernous space. "We are underprepared, outgunned, and might not return. But there are beings out there who need us. That's all humanity has ever required to act." The Vigilant launched within the hour, its experimental FTL drive tearing a hole in space as Earth's first combat mission into the broader galaxy began, not with conquest or exploration, but with a response to a desperate call for help. Emergency deceleration. Debris field ahead. The Vigilant tore back into normal space with klaxons blaring and warning lights bathing the bridge in crimson. Lieutenant Sarah Diaz's hands flew across the pilot's console, her enhanced neural implants processing spatial calculations faster than any computer. "Evasive pattern Delta 3, she called, voice steady despite sweat beading on her forehead. The Vigilant, Earth's only combat-ready vessel, dove beneath a tumbling section of alien hull plating that would have sheared off their sensor array. "Jesus Christ," whispered Ramirez at Tactical. "Look at the size of that debris field." Commander Reyes gripped her command chair as the ship stabilized. The main view screen revealed a nightmarish tableau. The elegant, elongated curves of an Andari diplomatic vessel hung broken in space, its midpoint shattered as if by a massive bite. 3 predatory ships, chitinous and segmented like armored insects, circled methodically, industrial cutting beams slicing through the crippled ship's remaining sections. "Magnify Quadrant 4, Rise ordered," her voice tight. The screen shifted, revealing smaller craft shuttling between the Andari vessel and the largest Krizak ship. Each carried what looked like translucent pods. "They're taking people," Ramirez whispered, horrified understanding dawning on his face. "They're not just destroying the ship. They're harvesting survivors." Reyes turned to Communications Officer Park. "Open a channel to the Krizak vessels. All frequencies." "Channel open, Commander." "Attention Krizak vessels. This is Commander Elena Reyes of the Earth ship Vigilant. You are attacking a diplomatic vessel in violation of interstellar conventions. Release your captives immediately and withdraw." The response came not as audio, but as a visual transmission. The bridge crew fell silent as they faced their first view of a Krizak, an insectoid being with a metallic exoskeleton and compound eyes that glittered with an intelligence that felt profoundly alien. Its mandibles clicked in what the hastily adapted translator identified as amusement. "Sax," the translation scrolled across the screen. "Your primitive shield is no T-pard, or be processed." "They're scanning us," Ramirez reported, "getting readings on our hull composition, weapon systems, crew life signs. They're cataloging us." Dr. Ibrahim's voice came through from medical, like resources to be harvested later. Reyes stood, facing the alien image. "We've come for the survivors. Release them, and we can avoid conflict." The Krizak commander's mandibles clicked rapidly. The translation appeared. "Your BIOM8TTAR. Gualil Sir V better purpose way in pro CSist." The transmission cut off abruptly. "They're targeting weapons," Ramirez shouted. The first impact hit before Reyes could respond. The Vigilant shuddered as weapons centuries more advanced than Earth's best defenses tore through their shields like paper. Emergency bulkheads slammed down as sea-deck depressurized, the screams of 3 crew members cut short by the merciless vacuum. "Return fire," Rise ordered, blood streaming from a cut on her forehead as a secondary explosion rocked the bridge. The Vigilant's conventional armaments, railguns and tactical missiles, impacted harmlessly against the Krizak vessel's shields. The tactical display painted a grim picture. They were hopelessly outmatched. "Shields failing," Ramirez reported grimly. "Hull breaches on decks C, F, and G. We can't take another direct hit." The emergency channel crackled to life. Engineer Wong's voice almost unrecognizable with excitement. "Commander, the pulse jump drive. We could use it inside the system." "That's theoretical at best, Wong," Rise responded, helping a wounded officer away from a sparking console. "And suicide at worst. The gravitational calculations alone would tear us apart," Diaz added, her pilot's console flashing with damage reports. "I've run them," Wong insisted, the sounds of his engineering team fighting electrical fires audible in the background. "Theoretical risk, 47%. Certainty of death if we don't, 100%. Rise looked around her bridge, at the faces of Earth's finest, terrified but resolute. In their eyes, she saw not resignation but determination. Humanity's first interstellar combat mission couldn't end like this. Wouldn't end like this. "Do it," she ordered, wiping blood from her eyes. "Lieutenant Diaz, prepare for micro-jump pattern on Wong's coordinates." What followed would become legendary in later tellings. The Vigilant executed a series of impossibly precise micro-FTL jumps, appearing behind, beneath, and between the Krizak vessels in maneuvers that violated the mathematical models other species used to calculate safe jump distances. And for a brief, glorious moment, humanity's desperate gamble worked. "Boarding party, final checks." Lieutenant Commander Akira Sato's voice carried across the Vigilance launch bay, where 12 volunteers stood in experimental-powered armor. Each suit represented billions in R&D, Earth's best attempt to compensate for humanity's physical disadvantages against established species. Their midnight blue surfaces absorbed light rather than reflected it, tactical systems humming as internal diagnostics completed. Sato himself was a compact man with the precise movements of the kendo master he'd been before joining the UDF. Now he moved among the volunteers, checking connections and weapons with practiced efficiency. "This is officially a rescue operation," he continued, meeting each soldier's eyes through their visors. "But make no mistake, you're about to see things no human was meant to see. Intelligence suggests Krizak don't take prisoners. They take parts." Marine Specialist Tivani Jackson checked her pulse rifle, a weapon deemed primitive by galactic standards but modified with Wong's experimental ammunition. At 32, she'd seen combat in Earth's final territorial conflicts. Nothing had prepared her for this. "Then let's show them how humans treat kidnappers," she replied, voice steady despite the ship breaking apart around them. The boarding pods launched across the void between vessels. Tactical feeds showed 2 pods disappearing in flashes of light, intercepted by defensive fire. Sato swallowed hard. 10 soldiers where 12 had volunteered. The survivors breached the merchant vessel's hull through a ragged wound left by Krizak cutting beams. What they found defied comprehension. Sato's helmet camera captured it all. Processing chambers, where Andari crew members hung suspended in viscous amber fluid, their bodies methodically being dismantled for useful materials, organs, specialized tissues, neural matter, while monitoring equipment ensured they remained conscious throughout. The Krizak weren't mere predators. They were harvesters who valued the biochemical responses of terror in their still-living specimens. "Christ Almighty," whispered Corporal Rodriguez through the team channel. "They're farming them." "Stay focused," Sato ordered, forcing clinical detachment into his voice. "Search pattern Delta. Priority on living captives." The team moved deeper, encountering holding pens containing not just Andari, but representatives from 11 other species, delegates to a galactic summit, according to ship's records. 7 diplomatic pods contained 17 survivors from 7 species, their captivity indicators suggesting they were selected for premium processing. Dr. Ibrahim, patched into the team's feed from the Vigilance medical bay, visibly retched before steeling herself. Her dark eyes narrowed with determination. "I need biological samples from each species," she instructed. "Quick scans. I'll develop emergency protocols while you extract them." Private Cooper approached a processing tank containing an Andari still showing neural activity, despite having its thoracic cavity spread open with mechanical restraints. The alien's 4 eyes tracked Cooper's movement. "Sir," Cooper's voice shook. "This one's still conscious. Request permission to. We can't save everyone." Seto cut him off, making the hardest call of his career. "Focus on the living." The rescue operation transformed to horror when proximity alarms blared. The supposedly disabled Krizak vessel had restored power faster than predicted. Boarding tubes punctured the merchant ship's hull, disgorging warrior-cased Krizak. 2 meters of armored chitin and natural weaponry, moving with horrifying speed toward the holding pens. "Defensive positions," Saito shouted. "Jackson, take point." What followed would redefine the galactic understanding of humanity. The diplomatic representatives watched in stunned incomprehension as humans, physically weaker, technologically inferior, formed a protective perimeter around aliens they'd never met. Jackson took point, her armor's joints smoking from strain as she absorbed impacts that would shatter bone. The team retreated methodically, protecting their charges with coordinated precision that surprised even the predatory Krizak. A young Andari diplomat watched in incomprehension as Private Rodriguez threw himself on a Krizak explosive device, his armor containing most of the blast, but not saving his life. The human didn't hesitate, didn't calculate the value of his life against an alien's. He simply acted. Back aboard the Vigilant, Dr. Ibrahim worked frantically. Her surgical bay transformed into a xenobiological nightmare as she treated 7 completely different biochemistries. When a Lissari diplomat went into toxic shock, Ibrahim performed a procedure she invented 30 seconds earlier, gambling on cross-species biological parallels. "Your species has no experience with xenomedicine," the senior Andari diplomat wheezed through a translator as Ibrahim stabilized his cardiovascular system. "Welcome to humanity," she replied, injecting him with a compound created specifically for his physiology. "We improvise. We won't outrun them." Lieutenant Diaz delivered this assessment with clinical detachment, her fingers dancing across the pilot's console as she coaxed maximum performance from the Vigilant's damaged engines. On the tactical display, 2 Krizak vessels pursued while the third regained power, their superior propulsion allowing them to close the gap with methodical certainty. "Their technology exceeds ours by centuries," she added, unnecessary but somehow important to verbalize. The bridge crew maintained disciplined silence. 17 alien diplomats had been extracted, at the cost of 5 human lives. Now the Vigilant limped through an uncharted system, trailing atmosphere and reactor coolant from multiple hull breaches. In engineering, Chief Wong worked feverishly, rerouting systems never designed for combat stress. Sweat soaked his uniform as he parsed sensor logs for any advantage. A pattern in their communications caught his attention. Regular pulses on an unusual frequency band that seemed to coordinate the Krizak ship's movements. Curious, Wong routed it through audio processors, broadcasting it to engineering. His team doubled over in pain while Wong remained unaffected, staring in confusion at his suffering colleagues. Sorry. He killed the transmission. It's their communication frequency. It creates neural interference in most species." Wong frowned, possibilities cascading through his mind. "But humans process it differently. We might be able to use that." In the makeshift medical bay, the diplomatic survivors cautiously interacted with the human crew. The senior Andari representative, Ambassador Threldzin, stood on 4 backward-jointed legs, observing Dr. Ibrahim performing emergency surgery on a Palaxian diplomat whose crystalline circulation system was failing. "Your technology is primitive," Threldzin noted through his translator, mandibles clicking in what might have been concern or criticism. "Necessity," Ibrahim replied without looking up, her hand steady despite 36 hours without sleep. "Humans have always been good at that." As the Vigilant limped through an asteroid field, using the densest concentrations for temporary sensor cover, the survivors revealed crucial context. The Krizak were ancient predators who typically avoided major conflicts but systematically hunted isolated targets. They'd never been challenged by a newcomer species. Most developing civilizations were quietly culled before achieving interstellar capability. How did Earth avoid detection? Commander Rice asked during an emergency council with the alien representatives. Her head wound had been hastily treated, the skin around her left eye purpling impressively. The Mesarian diplomat, a floating jellyfish-like creature suspended in a containment field, undulated apologetically. Your solar system happens to be positioned in what we call a sensory shadow zone. The cosmic radiation from nearby stellar phenomena obscured your technological emissions. Reyes nodded, grateful for cosmic coincidence, but the revelation that truly shook her came moments later. The true purpose of the diplomatic mission had been to finalize the controversial Sentient Species Classification Protocol. This protocol, Ambassador Threldzin explained, categorizes all known species based on technological advancement, biological capabilities, and galactic stability factor. And where would humanity fall in this classification? Rise asked, though she already suspected the answer. Category 3, replied the Tessari diplomat, her translucent skin flushing with embarrassment. Restricted from certain regions of space and technologies due to evolutionary immaturity and dangerous unpredictability. Your species exhibits disturbing traits, the Mesarian added, tendrils waving apologetically. You advance technologically faster than you develop restraint. You form emotional attachments to abstract concepts like justice and freedom rather than pragmatic self-interest. You take irrational risks. Like rescuing you. Lieutenant Seto asked quietly from the doorway, still wearing his blood-spattered armor. A tense silence followed, broken by the Andari ambassador. Perhaps, he admitted, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. We have miscategorized certain human qualities. The diplomatic discussion was cut short when tactical alerts blared throughout the ship. On the bridge, Ramirez's voice came through with controlled panic. Commander to the bridge. The Krezak have deployed a new weapon, boarding torpedoes designed to penetrate our weakened shields. Commander Reyes stood, her earlier diplomacy replaced by steel. All hands to battle stations, she ordered, meeting each alien diplomat's gaze. They want to harvest our guests. They'll have to come through humanity first. As she strode toward the bridge, Ambassador Threldzin watched her go with all four eyes. Most remarkable, he murmured to his fellow diplomats. They know they cannot win, yet they continue to fight for us. It is why they are dangerous, replied the Tessari. And perhaps why they are necessary. They're hurting us. Commander Reyes studied the navigational projections with the grim recognition of someone who'd spent her career analyzing predator-prey dynamics. 3 days of running, hiding, and desperate micro-jumps had revealed a pattern too deliberate to be coincidence. The Krezak weren't just pursuing. They'd called reinforcements, strategically blocking all routes back to Earth. Each escape attempt pushes us deeper into uncharted space, she observed, tracing their zigzagging retreat path, away from potential allies. The ship's condition deteriorated hourly. Life support operated at 37% efficiency. Food stores dwindled. The medical bay struggled to maintain 17 aliens with radically different biological needs. Worst of all, morale fractured as the reality of their situation became inescapable. We should surrender, Ensign Rivera suggested during a tense briefing, voices finally giving shape to the fear that had stalked the corridors. Maybe they'd spare some. They don't take prisoners, Lieutenant Sato interrupted flatly. His eyes had the 1,000-yard stare of someone who'd witnessed horrors beyond description. They take parts. The Vigilant limped into a dense nebula where sensors and communications were impaired, buying precious hours. In this temporary sanctuary, humanity's dangerous qualities emerged not through strength, but desperation. Engineer Wong hadn't slept in 53 hours. Stimulants kept him functional, barely, as he proposed something that violated every safety protocol in the UDF manual. Reconfiguring their FTL drive using principles never tested outside theoretical models. This could vaporize us instantly, he admitted to his engineering team, their faces gaunt with exhaustion. But I'd rather die quickly on our terms than slowly on theirs. No one disagreed. In medical, Dr. Ibrahim established an unprecedented exchange with the alien diplomats. Despite her exhaustion, she systematically interviewed each species about Krizak biology, compiling weaknesses in their sensory, neurological, and physiological systems. When the Mizarian diplomat hesitated to share sensitive xenobiological data, Ibrahim's professional demeanor cracked. "Your precious protocols won't matter when we're all being processed." She exploded, dark circles under her eyes accentuating her intensity. "Either help us fight or accept that your final contribution to galactic civilization will be as spare parts." Throughout the ship, human crew members exhibited what Ambassador Threlzin called irrational persistence. When life support failed in B-section, they didn't abandon it. They rebuilt it with salvaged components while wearing vacuum suits. When food synthesizers broke down, they created new recipes combining human and alien provisions, laughing at the bizarre results despite their dire situation. Most species would experience psychological collapse under these conditions, Threlzin observed to Commander Reyes as they watched an improvised medical procedure save a Taisari diplomat. "Yours seems to function better in crisis than stability." "Humans have always lived on the edge of catastrophe," Reyes responded, reviewing Wong's suicidal engine modifications. "We're uncomfortable with comfort." She didn't add what history had taught her, that humanity's greatest achievements had always come when their backs were against the wall. The Renaissance following the Black Death, the technological explosion after World War II, the climate restoration projects after the collapse of 2031. Humans, paradoxically, thrived when things were worst. Their nebula sanctuary crumbled when Krizak scouts detected ionic traces from the Vigilance-damaged engines. As hunting vessels converged, Reyes assembled the crew and diplomatic passengers, presenting a final plan that required perfect coordination between humans and aliens. It was so audacious that several diplomatic representatives refused to participate, certain it meant death. The Palaxian representative's crystalline form vibrated with stress frequencies. "The statistical probability of success is below measurable parameters," it noted. The Andari ambassador surprised everyone by stepping forward first. "If humanity's most dangerous quality is their refusal to surrender to statistical certainty," he announced, mandibles clicking decisively, "perhaps the rest of us should learn from it." As the plan launched into motion, humans and aliens working in perfect synchronization despite having met days earlier, Engineer Wong transmitted a simple message to the attacking Krizak fleet on their own neural-disrupting frequency. "You really shouldn't have made us desperate." In the depths of space, 17 Krizak vessels converged on the nebula, certain of their prey's imminent processing. They had no concept of the uniquely human quality they were about to encounter. Cornered humans didn't surrender. They innovated. "We're done running." Commander Reyes addressed the combined Human-Alien Council, her voice steady despite 6 days without proper sleep. The tactical display showed 9 Krizak vessels converging on their position, their hunting pattern tightening with predatory precision. "Conventional wisdom says we can't win," she continued, the glow from the display casting harsh shadows across her gaunt face. "Good thing humans have never respected conventional wisdom." The plan she outlined violated every tactical doctrine taught at the UDF Academy. Instead of continuing to flee, the crippled Vigilant would attack the numerically and technologically superior Krizak hunting party. Silence followed her presentation, broken by Engineer Wong's exhausted laughter. "This is why advanced species think we're dangerous," he said, rubbing bloodshot eyes. "Because we are." Using Wong's nightmarishly modified engines, now more theoretical physics experiment than conventional drive, they executed a series of micro-jumps that the Andari scientists aboard insisted should tear the ship apart. The Vigilant blinked in and out of normal space, appearing at seemingly random locations around the Krizak formation. "Jump point Alpha reached," Lieutenant Diaz announced, Her voice strained as she pushed the ship beyond design specifications. Deploying Package 1. At each jump point, they deployed modified communication buoys broadcasting on the frequency Wong had discovered, now calibrated specifically to disrupt Krizak neural patterns. The effect was immediate and devastating. The aliens' superior coordination dissolved into confusion as their ships began firing on each other, unable to distinguish friend from foe. "Their hive communication is breaking down," reported Ramirez from Tactical, a grim smile on his face. Package 2, ready for deployment. The human assault team, led by the now legendary Lieutenant Saito, demonstrated another trait that horrified even their allies: creative weaponization of available resources. Having run out of conventional ammunition days earlier, they jury-rigged weapons using medical equipment, engine components, and even food synthesizer parts. Is this typical human behavior? The Palaxian diplomat asked Dr. Ibrahim as they watched Specialist Jackson modify a surgical laser into a cutting weapon. No, Ibrahim answered honestly, helping Jackson calibrate the beam intensity. We're usually much more restrained. This is humanity with nothing left to lose. When the Vigilant sustained critical damage during the third attack run, Krizak cutting beams slicing through engineering deck, Commander Rice made the call that would later be studied in military academies across a dozen worlds. Instead of abandoning ship, they would intentionally crash land on a small moon orbiting a nearby gas giant. "We're going to what?" Lieutenant Diaz asked, disbelief momentarily overriding her discipline. "You heard me, Lieutenant," Rice replied calmly. "Take us down. Make it look like we're crippled and failing." "We are crippled and failing," Diaz muttered, but her hands were already plotting the course. The maneuver crushed 2 more decks and killed 7 crew members, but it placed them in a defensible position where the Krizak's maneuverability advantage was neutralized. The trap was set with human cunning and alien technical assistance, using the moon's unusual magnetic properties to enhance Wong's neural disrupting transmitters. When Krizak landing parties breached the Vigilant's hull, certain of easy harvesting, they faced a nightmare of their own: close-quarters combat against cornered humans fighting with improvised weapons, protected by armor modified with alien technology. Compartment 7. Breached. Jackson's voice came through comms, punctuated by the distinctive sound of her improvised plasma cutter, sending them a proper human welcome. The diplomatic observers watched from emergency shelters as humans, physically weaker, technologically inferior, fought with a coordinated ferocity that shocked even the predatory Krizak, where the insectoid warriors expected prey behavior. Fleeing, hiding, surrendering, they encountered predators more savage than themselves. Ambassador Threldzin, against all safety protocols, began transmitting encrypted footage across diplomatic channels that reached the wider galactic community. The transmission's header was simple: witness the species we would have classified as dangerous. Witness them fighting for us. The battle reached its crescendo when Commander Rice, bleeding from multiple wounds after a Krizak, breached the command center, led a final counterattack against the aliens' command unit. Her last transmission to the diplomatic shelter was intercepted by millions across dozens of species. This is humanity. We don't know how to stop. Remember that, whether we survive or not. As her team breached the Krizak command vessel, xenobiologists across the galaxy witnessed something unprecedented. For the first time in recorded history, Krizak warriors were retreating from prey. The Tisari diplomatic vessel Eternal Harmony dropped out of FTL near Earth, causing planetary defense systems to activate automatically. Its unexpected arrival triggered global alerts, humanity's first experience with an unscheduled alien visitation. UDF headquarters scrambled response teams, uncertainty giving way to dread when the ship's identity was confirmed. No one expected the message that followed. Ambassador Threlzin's gaunt face appearing on screens worldwide, his normally lustrous carapace now dull with stress. "Your children fought like demons to save us. Some still live. Come quickly." Earth's response revealed what the galactic community truly should have feared. The UDF launched a rescue fleet 3 times larger than any alien intelligence had predicted humans could possess. 12 warships, secretly built in asteroid facilities and hidden from diplomatic visitors, jumped toward the battle coordinates, exposing humanity's genuine military capacity for the first time. In the Tisari Diplomatic Coordination Center, sensor technicians stared in disbelief. Impossible, the senior analyst chittered, translucent skin pulsing with distress patterns. Their infrastructure couldn't possibly support this level of militarization. We've been monitoring them since first contact. Clearly, responded the Tisari security director, not closely enough. Across 27 worlds, intelligence agencies scrambled to reassess human capabilities. Reports flooded specialized networks with alarming conclusions. Humans had been systematically understating their technological progress, their manufacturing capacity, their FTL capabilities. The species that presented itself as a plucky newcomer had been quietly preparing for a hostile universe. They anticipated violence, noted a Miserian strategic assessment. Despite our peaceful overtures, they built warships in secret. Paranoia is deeply encoded in their behavior. When the rescue fleet arrived at the moon where the Vigilant had made its last stand, they found the impossible. A damaged but operational human vessel, surrounded by defensive positions constructed from Krezak wreckage. Commander Reyes, missing an eye but unbowed, greeted the rescue team from behind a makeshift barricade of alien technology and human determination. "You're late," she said simply. More surprising were the 3 alien vessels in protective formation around the Vigilant. Representatives from species who had received the diplomatic distress call and chosen to respond despite the Krezak threat. The footage of human defenders fighting to protect alien diplomats had spread across secure channels, sparking the most significant xenopolitical crisis in 300 years. The galactic community fractured along predictable lines. 6 elder species called for immediate containment of humanity, arguing that their combination of self-sacrifice, ingenuity, and controlled aggression made them uniquely dangerous if allowed to expand further. Their representatives circulated terrifying footage. Humans continuing to fight despite grievous injuries, improvising weapons from medical equipment, sacrificing themselves without calculation of personal benefit. They do not register fear appropriately, warned the Voth Consensus, an alliance of ancient civilizations. They fight more effectively when cornered. This violates every principle of evolved intelligence. Others, including all 7 species whose diplomats were rescued, argued that humans represented a necessary evolutionary development in galactic politics. The Andari ambassador addressed the Galactic Council with unprecedented directness. "For 10,000 years, we have maintained peace through mutual assured destruction and calculated self-interest. Then came a species who answered a distress call from strangers, knowing they might die. Is this dangerous? Yes. Is it also exactly what our stagnant civilization needs? Absolutely." The Krezak, having suffered unprecedented losses, withdrew from the sector but issued a formal predator's challenge to humanity, a ritualized declaration of intent normally reserved for species centuries more advanced. Their message, transmitted across all frequencies, was simple: "We will study you before we hunt you again." As the Vigilant limped home under escort, its damaged hull patched with alien technologies freely shared by grateful allies, Commander Reyes recorded her final mission log with characteristic understatement. "We saved 17 lives and lost 38 of our own. By cold mathematics, a terrible exchange. But we've gained something incalculable. We've shown the galaxy what humanity truly is. Not our technology or our weapons, but our fundamental nature. They called us dangerous. Now they know why." What she couldn't know was that her log, leaked to public channels, would become the most widely translated human communication in galactic history. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council had stood for 17 millennia. Its architecture designed to humble representatives from even the most self-important civilizations. Commander Elena Reyes, still walking with a limp 6 months after the Mayday incident, felt appropriately small as she entered with Earth's diplomatic contingent. Overhead, holographic displays replayed now-famous footage. Humans forming protective barriers around alien dignitaries. Dr. Ibrahim performing surgery with improvised tools. Lieutenant Seto's final stand against Krezak elites. The chamber buzzed with untranslatable commentary from 200 species as Ambassador Threldzin approached the central podium. For 30,000 years, the Andari diplomat began, his voice carrying unusual emotional harmonics that the translators struggled to capture. Our civilizations have maintained order through the sentient species classification protocol. Today, I propose its abolition. The chamber erupted in cacophony. Elder species representatives vibrated with color signals indicating extreme distress. The Mizarian delegation withdrew into protective bubbles. Only the Krezak observers remained motionless, their compound eyes fixed on the human delegation with predatory assessment. Threldzin presented evidence from the Vigilant incident, methodically dismantling the protocol's core assumptions. We classified humans as dangerous because they value abstract principles over self-preservation, because they form emotional bonds quickly across species boundaries, because they react unpredictably to threats. His 4 eyes swept the chamber. These are not weaknesses to be contained. They are strengths our stagnant community desperately needs. When Commander Reyes took the podium, tension crystallized into stunned silence. Her proposal was unprecedented, a mutual defense pact that would commit human forces to protect vulnerable species from predation. Strategists across the chamber immediately grasped the implications. Humanity, despite its technological inferiority, was offering to serve as the galaxy's first truly cross-species peacekeeping force. You fear our capacity for violence, Reyes acknowledged, her artificial eye gleaming under the chamber lights. You should, but have you considered that the same evolutionary traits that make us dangerous to our enemies make us invaluable to our allies? The debate raged for days, transmitted across thousands of worlds. Political realignments cascaded through ancient alliances as the proposition forced every species to reconsider their place in the galactic order. 7 formerly neutral species pledged support to humanity's proposal, seeing opportunity in alignment with this unpredictable newcomer. 3 elder civilizations threatened economic sanctions against Earth, warning of the dangers of empowering an immature species. The Krezak delegation broke centuries of diplomatic precedent by addressing the Council directly, their collected voice harmonizing in a way that made translation devices crackle with strain. The dangerous ones have secrets still. Watch them closely. They departed immediately after, leaving analysts scrambling to interpret their warning. As the diplomatic firestorm continued, UDF headquarters received reports of 3 new distress signals from different sectors. Merchant vessels under attack by raiders, a scientific outpost facing environmental collapse, and a passenger liner drifting with failing life support. Without waiting for Council approval, the now expanded human fleet mobilized. Admiral Chen, the night shift lieutenant who first received the fateful Mayday call, gave the deployment order. All vessels, priority response protocols. We have people who need help. The galaxy watched in stunned fascination as humanity revealed what truly made them dangerous, not their weapons or technology, but their reflexive response to suffering. Specialized ships departed Earth in rapid succession, each carrying uniquely cross-trained teams of soldiers, diplomats, engineers, and medical personnel. In the final scene, Commander Reyes, now Admiral Reyes, addressed the UDF Academy's incoming class. The lecture hall contained not only human cadets, but representatives from 9 alien species enrolled in Earth's first interstellar defense program. Every species in the galaxy has asked the same question about humanity, she told them, her artificial eye scanning the diverse audience. They ask what makes us dangerous. The answer isn't our technology or our biology, or even our unpredictability. What makes us dangerous is simpler than that. She activated a holographic display showing the original Mayday signal that started everything, its alien harmonics now familiar to every human on Earth. What makes humans dangerous is how we answer one fundamental question. When someone calls for help, what do you do next? Most species calculate risk versus benefit. Humans simply respond. That doesn't make us better, but it does make us necessary.